What's going on, guys? This is the Raw Prospect Podcast. I'm Emmy Nixon. I've got Michael Wing with me on the phone. We're going to be talking about our NFL midseason playoff predictions and college basketball. This is our 7th podcast, so let's get it started. I think I'm going to start it off with my predictions here. I went through on this website, and I basically went through game by game, and this is what I ended up with. I had the Chiefs in the 1 seed in the AFC, Patriots 2 seed, Texans 3 seed, Steelers 4 seed, Chargers 5 seed, and then Ravens in the 6 seed. So in that scenario, the playoff matchups would be for the wild card, it would be
Did you have at 6?
I had Baltimore at 6, so it'd be
Did you have
Ravens versus Texans in Houston, and I picked the Ravens actually, but I don't know what you would pick there.
I'd probably agree, but keep going.
And then it would be Chargers at Steelers, and then I picked the Steelers. And then the winner of that game would go to New England in New England.
Uh-huh.
And then the Ravens would then go to Kansas City.
Ooh.
And I picked the Ravens in that game. To be honest, it would be a disappointing ending for the Chiefs, but defense wins championships.
For sure. Keep going.
And then I picked the Patriots over the Steelers. So then the AFC Championship game would be Ravens at Patriots. And then I picked the Patriots to win that game. So I had the Patriots going to the Super Bowl.
That's respectable. What about the NFC?
NFC, I had Rams in the 1 seed, Vikings 2 seed, Eagles 3 seed, Panthers 4 seed, Saints 5 seed, and Packers in the 6 seed. So the Packers would go to Philadelphia, and the Saints would go to Carolina. But that was the NFC was much harder to pick because
for sure
it all depended on one week 17 game in New Orleans, Panthers at New Orleans, to decide the NFC South. And I picked the Panthers, but that's kind of a coin flip.
Where was the game?
In New Orleans.
In New Orleans, wow.
That's going to be week 17. That's going to decide the division, in my opinion.
Okay. And who do you have representing the NFC in the Super Bowl?
I picked the Rams, but it's tough. I had the Vikings and the Rams playing the NFC Championship game. But before that, I had the Eagles beating the Packers at home, and then I had the Panthers beating the Saints at home. So it would have been Panthers at Vikings, and then Eagles at it would be Panthers at Rams, and then Eagles at Vikings. So it would have been a rematch in the NFC Championship last year, except in Minnesota. And this time I picked the Rams.
Makes sense. I slightly disagree with your predictions. I didn't actually go through the playoff matchups and make the predictions. But I have 1 through 6 figured out. I actually put New England at actually put New England at 1. I have Kansas City at 2. I said in our last podcast Baltimore would win the AFC North. So I have Baltimore at 3 because I got to stand by that prediction. And I have Houston winning the AFC South at 4. And then at 5, I have Pittsburgh. And at 6, I have the Chargers. So I have the same teams as you, except in a different order.
Okay.
In the NFC, I have Los Angeles. I hold still on that. I like New Orleans to get the 2 seed. I really like the type of football they're playing right now. They're hot. I have Minnesota at 3, winning the NFC North. I think Philadelphia will make a run. They're in a slump right now, but I think they will make a run, win the division, and get the 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carolina is a wild card in the NFC you want to watch out for. I have them at 5. And then I think Aaron Rodgers can do enough. And I agree with you. I have Green Bay at 6. So those are my predictions. Now, as far as those playoff matchups go, you look at my seedings, you have the Chargers going to Baltimore. Certainly interesting. High-powered offense versus top 5 defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have Pittsburgh going to Houston. So very interesting. 2 relatively high-powered offenses. I could throw out some predictions here on the fly. I would honestly take Baltimore to beat Los Angeles at home with that defense. And I would probably take Pittsburgh to beat Houston, considering they have Le'Veon Bell in that game, who still hasn't showed up. But I'd probably pick Pittsburgh. The defense is starting to play a little better. And then after that, I can't really say. As far as the NFC goes, with Minnesota playing Green Bay, that's a divisional matchup in Minnesota. A lot of emotion in that game. I actually would pick probably Aaron Rodgers in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I pick Green Bay to move on. And then Carolina and Philly. Carolina just beat Philly, but I think Philly would get their revenge in the playoff environment. So I'd pick Philly to move on from there. That's just my predictions on the fly, but those are my seedings.
I agree with you. I just think Baltimore actually has a relatively tough schedule coming up. I have the games pulled up right here. Let me pull those up. So Baltimore closes the year. Week 9, they'll play Pittsburgh, and this week they're playing Carolina. So they have a lot of tough games. They're playing at Atlanta week 13, at Kansas City week 14, and then at LA Chargers week 16. So they have a really tough schedule coming up, in my opinion.
For sure. I think when we look back on it, this could go one or two ways for Baltimore. I really think they had a chance to jump on the division last week, and Justin Tucker missed his first ever extra point, and it cost them. Yeah. I think we could look back on that game and say, oh my God, that might have cost Baltimore the division.
Yeah.
But in reality, we can't say that yet. I really think the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game in Baltimore week 9 next week is going to be critical in being the deciding factor of who wins the AFC North. Because if you think about it, Baltimore already beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, so they would have the season sweep and the better record. So that game's humongous.
And the key with that is they're going to have that at home, and then they're going to have the next key division game the next week at home versus Cincinnati. And I think if Baltimore doesn't make it, I think Cincinnati would be that 7th team.
Okay. I agree.
Would take their spot, possibly. But I think, and especially this year, 9 wins isn't going to be enough. So if some of these games don't go their way, then they're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay. Well, what are your opinions? You're a Cowboys fan, so what's your opinion on the Amari Cooper trade?
I think it's we're kind of taking a risky move here, but the key with this trade is it's just to decide whether we need to pay Dak or not. Because in a year from now, Dak's contract will be up. We either pay him the $100 million or we get rid of him and we draft another quarterback. So bringing in Amari Cooper, I just think from here on out, we just got to see how he does. And if he can't throw for 250 yards consistently, then he may not be the guy. But I think he will be the guy. That's the thing. If he can gain chemistry with Amari Cooper quickly, possibly they'll be a threat. But I think it'll be next year, not this year. I think this year, like I said in the beginning of the year, I said they would go around 8-8, 9-7. I think that's going to be in that range this year.
Okay. I want to actually talk about the Oakland side of this. They did get a first-round pick for Amari Cooper, in case y'all didn't know. But now, going into next year, they actually have 3 first-round picks now and another second. So they've stockpiled these draft picks, and they're ready for this rebuild. Now, rumors have been there's friction in the locker room with Derek Carr, and that situation has to be worked out. I don't know if you would maybe want to see how the rest of the season goes and decide what you want to do after the year. There has been rumors they might actually even be open to trading him. That would be full-on rebuild.
Yeah.
Full-on tank mode. Which is kind of sad because if you think about it, these Oakland fans are only going to get two more years of this. And this team's moving to Las Vegas. It's kind of sad, the state of the Raiders. Remember when Derek Carr got all this money? It seems ever since then, everything's gone downhill.
Yeah.
But as far as, I think, on the bright side, my point is they've done a really good job of stockpiling draft picks so they at least have something to build off of. I think in those first 3 first-round picks, they got to find someone. I think they got to find a pass rusher. I think they need to improve their secondary for sure. And they probably need to draft another offensive guy, probably at the receiver position. But if you think about it, this draft is not very deep at the receiver position. It's very good defensively, though. So they've done a very good job stockpiling draft picks. I think they're ready for the rebuild. The questions just are now, what's the next move? What do you do with Derek Carr? You're not going to get out of his contract unless you trade him because you paid him all that money. What's the plan moving forward? How do the Oakland fans react to this? I'm sure they're not happy. So we'll just have to see what Oakland does. It'll definitely be interesting.
Yeah. To me, you got to keep Derek Carr. I think everybody else is movable, but in today's NFL, the quarterback position is still the most important thing. And looking at them the last 10 years, they've been a different organization since they got Derek Carr.
For sure.
They like we're saying they're bad now, but before they were a joke.
Yeah, for sure. You just got to look forward to those 3 first-round draft picks.
Yeah, and one of them is going to be top 5, it looks like.
For sure. So, and another one will probably be within the top 20.
Yeah,
Maybe
for sure.
Another one maybe later in the first round. So you have all chances. A lot of assets at your disposal.
Yeah.
So it's good that they're starting the process now and not later.
For sure. Just bad timing, though. Let's talk a little more about the NFC. When I was doing my predictions, there was just a lot of teams piled up at 10-6, 10-5-1. The Packers were 10-5-1. I had, and 9-7. There was 9 teams in the hunt for me. I don't know if that was the same for you, but the NFC, it's going to be, especially for Atlanta, it's going to be between Atlanta and Green Bay to get that 6th seed, in my opinion.
Okay. I think I wouldn't personally put Atlanta as my 7 right now, but I could definitely see that happening once they get those guys back on defense. But personally, I think the team you got to keep your eye out for is Seattle. This is a team I didn't think was going to make the playoffs before the season started, but I think they have a legitimate shot now. You look at how they played the Rams tough. They're really good at home. I don't see anyone else in the NFC West that's better. I think they can beat all the other division games. I think they can win those games. And I think they have a couple other winnable games down the stretch. So I think Seattle could possibly make a push for the 6th seed. I also think Washington will definitely be in the hunt also. And then maybe I could put Atlanta behind those 2 teams as of now. But that might change down the road once Atlanta gets healthy.
Looking at their schedule, I have it pulled up right here. In Week 11, they play Green Bay at home. Week 12, they go on the road to Carolina, and then they get Minnesota at home. And they get Kansas City at home Week 16. So a lot of – I'd say Green Bay is winnable, but Carolina is going to be a tough game. Kansas City is going to be a tough game. But I'd say if they can get any of those would be big in terms of head-to-head.
For sure. They got to get, I'd say, 2 of those games.
Yeah, for sure.
And they got to win out the rest versus the division. Except for maybe Los Angeles.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. They are going to LA Week 10. That'll be an important game.
But it will be interesting. I think Russell Wilson's that type of player. He can put the team on his back.
Exactly, yeah. I think I don't know if you remember, but we both had Russell Wilson as a sleeper MVP candidate a couple years ago. He's still that level of quarterback. He's just been under the radar because his team
is not on that spotlight anymore. Not on the spotlight anymore.
Exactly. But I think that's gonna do it with our NFL predictions. Do you want to transition to college basketball now, or do you have anything more?
I think that will be it for the NFL. If I think of something, we'll come back to it at the end. But for now, we're going to transition into college basketball. It's been a while since we talked any college basketball. If you don't remember, Villanova ended up beating Michigan in the national championship game. The 1 seed Villanova Wildcats beat the Michigan Wolverines, who were the 3 seed, 79-62 in the national championship game. The Final Four was Villanova against Kansas, in which Villanova won 95-79, and Michigan against Loyola Chicago, which Michigan won 69-57. As far as upsets go in last year's tournament, you had, to my despise, UMBC upset Virginia in the first 16 seed to ever beat a 1 seed. You had Buffalo beat down Arizona in a 13-4 matchup in the South, which Buffalo won 89-68. You had Loyola Chicago make that memorable run, where they beat Miami, Tennessee, and Nevada, and K-State on their way to the Final Four. What else did you have? You had Michigan as that 3 seed, always hot around tournament time, make that run to the Final Four. On the other side of the bracket, I know we had more upsets than this. I'm just looking through the bracket right now. You had, I believe, someone else. Oh, Rhode Island beat Oklahoma. They're always a team to watch out for come tournament time.
Mm-hmm.
Who beat Texas again? Oh, yeah, Nevada beat Texas. I think that's it for the upsets. I might be missing one. I know I'm missing one, but tournament last year was filled with upsets. On Tuesday, the people, ESPN released the first AP poll for this season, AP Top 25. We're gonna run through probably the top 15 teams. We'll just start at 1. Why not? Mm-hmm. Number 1 is Kansas. In case you all haven't been paying attention, Kansas is projected to win the Big 12 again. No surprise. Bill Self returns. They had 3 seniors leave last year: Devontae Grant, Phoebe Mikailu, whose name I can't pronounce very well, and Malik Newman. So they'll be missed, but they do have 3 transfers coming in who did not play last year because they transferred. They have the Lawson brothers, who not a lot of people know about, who transferred from Memphis. The main one is Dedrick Lawson, who's a power forward. He will be in the running to win possibly Big 12 Player of the Year and Naismith College Basketball Player of the Year. He averaged 17.5 points, 9.6 rebounds, 3 assists, and shot 30% from 3. And rumor is he's been working on his 3-point shot. So he'll be deadly inside. They got LeGerald Vick on the outside, who might not even start. He's a senior and the leader of the team. He might not even start because they're so talented. They got Adoko, that guy inside whose last name I can't pronounce. You know who I'm talking about. They got a transfer from Cal, Charlie Moore, who averaged 13.2 points as a freshman a year ago for California. They got Sylvia DeSosa, who actually was just ruled ineligible in a scandal. They got a top 10 recruit in Quentin Grimes at that shooting guard position. He might be projected to be the next KU freshman to be a one-and-done lottery pick. So Kansas is really talented. With the additions of the 3 transfers, the leadership of LeGerald Vick, the their coach and Bill Self, and all the other talent they have around it, they'll definitely be in contention for a number 1 seed in the tournament. And they'll probably win the Big 12. Amy, do you want to talk about Kentucky? Or do you want me to keep going?
You can keep going. I haven't been paying as much attention to college basketball, but
personally, I don't think Kentucky should be where they are at number 2. But as you guys know, if you know anything about college basketball, these rankings really don't matter. When it's all said and done. But we're going to talk about it anyway. I wouldn't have Kentucky in my top 5, but they do always have that touted recruiting class, and this year it's stacked. The main guy is Reed Travis, who will be another one-and-done player, top 15 recruit. He averaged 19.5 points. Actually, I was wrong. He's a fifth-year senior, actually. 6'8", small forward who averaged 19.5 points and 9 rebounds for the Stanford Cardinals last year. He rises as a fifth-year senior transfer. So he can add some experience to Kentucky. Also, Kentucky, in addition to Travis, the Wildcats have sophomores Quad Green and Nick Richards, both former McDonald's All-Americans in high school, along with the usual crop of 5-star freshmen in E.J. Montgomery, Emmanuel Quickly, who a lot of people are talking about. He's really skilled, Keldon Johnson, and Ashton Higgins. A lot of talent, but this team's young, and we'll have to see how it all mixes together. I don't even have Kentucky as my favorite to win the SEC, but I think that's Tennessee, who we'll talk about later. But they have a lot of talent. They're just not a top 5 team, in my opinion, because, as you know, Kentucky teams don't play defense, and they take a while to hit their stride. So we'll see about Kentucky. Gonzaga's Gonzaga. I don't have any really good notes prepared for you guys on Gonzaga, but they'll be a top 10 team when it's all said and done. They have a great coach in Mark Few. They play in an easier conference. They'll definitely be top 10, top 15. Duke. Duke is the first team ever to get the all top three recruits out of high school. They got R.J. Barrett, the number 1 recruit, who's a favorite for Naismith College Basketball of the Year. In the U19 Men's Basketball World Cup in June 2018, he averaged 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists as he was representing Canada, and they won a gold medal at the FIBA U19 Men's Basketball World Cup this past summer. Very talented. He's strong. He's athletic. He's great finishing around the rim. At the 2 recruit, I'm sure you guys know who he is, Zion Williamson. Very strong, freakish athlete. Is known for dunking.
There's a lot of hype around Zion Williamson.
A lot of prime time. Duke is probably the most fun team in the nation.
Just because of the star power in the name.
Just because of the star power that they're going to have. But my question always is how quickly can Coach K get these guys to gel? If they gel, well, you're talking about Duke as possibly being the number 1 team in the country. If they don't, then they might struggle. They got to get it going by the time the non-conference schedule ends, because once you jump into that ACC grind and you're not where you're supposed to be at come January, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see if they can gel together, but they have the most talent in the country. They have one of the best coaches in the country. They always have best talent. So we'll just see where it goes. Do you have anything to say so far?
Well, with Zion, there's been concerns about his weight in the past, but I think he'll be okay. I think the main concern for Zion Williams is his jump shot in terms of him as an NBA prospect.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be interesting to see throughout the year whether he develops that or not.
Personally, I'm not being biased, but I don't have Duke as favorites to win the ACC, and the reason is because they lack experience. And I don't know how quickly these guys are going to gel together. And then the last guy we didn't mention is Cam Reddish, who's certainly talented, 6'8", 220 freshman. This team is long, and they have a bunch of talent, but can they gel together?
Yeah, it takes a lot more than that to win in the ACC. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Number 5 in the preseason poll was Virginia. We can talk about – I'm honestly open to talking about the loss to UMBC. Played the worst game in probably their history at the very worst time, but you got to move forward. For Virginia, this is a team a lot of people forget because they lost to UMBC, but this is a team that went 17-1 in the ACC last year, led the nation in defense, and won the conference by 4 games, and flew through the conference tournament and won the ACC tournament. They have one of the most underrated, probably best coach in the country in Tony Bennett. They have the best defense in the country. They return their top 3 contributors, Kyle Guy, who will be a junior. You have Ty Jerome at the point guard. He'll be a junior. And you have DeAndre Hunter, who came on late last year but broke his wrist and wasn't able to play in the UMBC game, which really hurt Virginia, who is actually could be projected to be a first-round pick in next year's draft. Maybe even a lottery pick, depending on how he does this year. And then recently this week, they had their transfer from Alabama, Braxton Key, a 6'8" junior transfer. They got a waiver signed for him, so he's immediately eligible to play this year. So add him into the mix. And then you have Jack Salt, who's a senior, starting at the 5. And then to come off the bench, you got athleticism everywhere. Francisco Badocci, who's no one knows about this guy. He's a guy from Italy, can shoot the lights out from 3, very athletic. Marco Anthony, who had a limited role last year behind Jerome, but I expect him to be great. Diakite, who might even start, and then Jay Huff, who might even be the next Frank Kaminsky. And you have the coach and Tony Bennett, who runs the pack line defense. It works seemingly every single year. No one's been able to figure it out yet until UMBC figured it out in the tournament. So personally, I'm trying to not be as biased as possible, but I think Virginia should be the favorite in the ACC because people are overlooking what they did last year. You don't win the ACC by 4 games and not get any that doesn't just happen.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a fluke. That's for sure.
So we'll see. They'll be definitely pushing high 20s, lower 30s in wins. I don't know if they can get to that 31 win mark they got to last year, because this year their conference schedule is a lot tougher because they got to play Duke twice. They got to play Carolina on the road, but we'll see with UVA. You want to say anything?
No, I think you hit on everything that needed to be said. Really. Uh,
Um,
Obviously, the scoring is always the
yeah,
struggle with Virginia.
it's gonna be, can the team score in the tournament? If they can,
Then they'll go far. Yeah.
they'll make a deep run.
Yeah.
And I think if they do, it's gonna be because they got Braxton Key eligible immediately, and he's really going to help because he adds a fourth guy who they can add to that starting lineup. So in their starting lineup, they have years of experience between Jerome, Hunter, Guy, Braxton Key, and Jack Salt. So in their starting lineup, they have 3 juniors, a senior, and a sophomore. Duke will have possibly 4 freshmen and a senior. So we'll just see how that works out. But you can't forget about Carolina, who we're going to talk about in a second. Tennessee is my favorite to win the SEC. They bring back all their guys from last year, including a guy, Grant Williams, power forward, who a lot of people overlooked last year. He'll be a senior, 15.2 points per game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 28% from 3. He'll be critical in providing that experience for Tennessee. He's big, he's athletic. They return everyone from last year. I can't speak in depth on Tennessee, but I think they got a good coach, and they'll be in contention for another top 3 seed in the tournament. And I think their experience will eventually win out against Kentucky. Because when you look at it in college basketball, eventually experience wins out. Because Villanova won it last year, and they were one of the most experienced teams in the country. And then the year before that, you had Carolina, and they were one of the most experienced teams in the country before Joel Berry and all those guys left. So,
especially in the regular season, also, you always see the more experienced teams winning their conferences, and in the tournament, I feel like it's more. You have to be good, but you got to be lucky as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit. You see a little bit.
There's a lot of luck, or more luck than in other sports involved with college basketball, but that's what makes it fun to watch. Number 8, Carolina. They have one of the favorites to win National Player of the Year, and that's Luke May. This is a guy who became famous when he hit 2 years ago that shot against Kansas in the Elite Eight, that buzzer beater to beat Kansas in the Elite Eight and move on to the Final Four, which they ended up winning the national championship. Now he is a senior. He averaged a double-double last year. One of 8 players in the Power 5 conferences to average a double-double. 17 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. And he shot 43% from three-point range. So he's incredibly efficient on the offensive end, and he's pretty good on the defensive end. He matches up well with a lot of guys because he's one of those power forwards who can stretch the floor and score inside. So he'll be the leader of this team, especially after they lose Joel Berry. And then after that, I believe they have Cameron Johnson coming back. Remember, after they added him back to the mix last year, they were much more dangerous because he's 6'9", he's athletic. He'll be a senior. They always have some good recruits. They're Carolina. You have Nasir Little, who's a consistent top 10 recruit in McDonald's All-American Game MVP. Could be a one and done, but he's going to occupy a huge role in that. He's basically going to be relied upon to fill Joel Berry's shoes, which is asking a lot, but he's more athletic, and I think Roy Williams will get the best out of him. My questions with Carolina are always just they got to figure out ways to win on the defensive end. They definitely have the talent to be one of the best teams in the country defensively, but they never really seem to actually reach their full potential in the defensive end, in my opinion. They're playing in a tough ACC conference where you're going to have to beat Duke and Virginia and maybe even Virginia Tech to win the conference, but definitely it's crazy when you can say Carolina is a sleeper team to win the ACC, and that's kind of what they are this year. Usually you say Carolina's a favorite, but this year they're kind of overlooked.
Yeah, they're kind of under the radar.
You never want to overlook any Carolina team for sure. Number 9, I think they should be higher, but it's Villanova. They won the national championship. They did lose Jalen Brunson to the NBA, but they are returning some other guys. I think Jay Wright knows how to get the most out of his teams. They play in an easier conference than, say, the ACC or the Big Ten. They'll always be around. I think they should be probably a little higher. Oh, and I skipped over Nevada. Yeah, Nevada's ranked 7. I think that's a little too high for Nevada, but supposedly they have their best team in their history coming in this year, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Mountain West. They should fly through the Mountain West Conference and be a top seed in the tournament, but I personally think when the season's over, you'll see them probably lower than they are now, just because. 10, you have Michigan State. They're the favorite to win the Big Ten. Let me see what notes I have on Michigan State. But you want to say anything while I pull up my...
Yeah, I think my pick for Naismith College Player of the Year, I'm just going to throw it out there. I think it's going to be, I don't want to say Zion, because that's kind of, that I won't think that would be a good pick. I think it's going to be, I think it might be RJ Barrett, to be honest.
I think he's the favorite, but you can't overlook guys like Dedrick Lawson and Luke May. I think those will be the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Carson Edwards certainly will be in the conversation. He's probably one of the best scorers of the guys we have listed here, but his downfall might be that Purdue might not be in that national spotlight that Duke and Carolina and Kansas are. Because Purdue, they'll be borderline top 25 team this year, but they're not going to be in the spotlight like North Carolina and Luke May or Duke and RJ Barrett or Kansas and Dedrick Lawson or Grant Williams in Tennessee. Like, that's just how it's going to go. So if voters get to see Carson Edwards play and Purdue ends up doing better than they're projected, Carson Edwards, who not a lot of people know, could be a sleeper. But I think RJ Barrett, Luke May, Dedrick Lawson are definitely the favorites.
Yeah, for sure.
What was I doing? I'm going to talk about Michigan State in just a second, but want to say anything else about Carolina or Villanova?
Villanova lost a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They lost Mikal Bridges. They lost Jalen Brunson. They lost Amari Spellman.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I have it pulled up. But Yeah, they lost Dante DiVincenzo. So that's four of their really key players. So it's going to be tough to replace that production.
For sure. But I think Jay Wright's done it before.
Yeah.
When the
he definitely has
graduated. So,
considering how good that team was last year, it's just going to be hard for me to see them quite as good.
For sure. But, I mean, in the tournament, they know how to win tournament-style basketball, and that's what's important.
Yeah, for sure. They're always a tough out in the tournament.
Michigan State. I'm trying to find Michigan State. I know Tom Izzo will have his team probably win the Big Ten. They do play in a tough conference, though. I mean, Michigan's going to be a top 25 team all season.
Mm-hmm.
You have what? Who else is in that? Let's see. Purdue, certainly a sleeper in that conference. Wisconsin wasn't great last year, but they're coming back. Indiana will certainly be good. It's a deep conference, so. But as far as Michigan State goes, they don't have any 5-star recruits like they did last year in Bridges and Jackson, but their freshman class is strong, but it's not overwhelming. I think it's going to be ultimately good for Michigan State because I don't see any of their freshmen being one and done, bolting to the NBA immediately, so they can get these guys in and have them for a couple of years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be able to add depth to a rotation that has a strong nucleus. As always, Tom Izzo does a good job of, making sure his team doesn't get too, how do I say this, too
last year, this team struggled with turnovers on a different note.
Yeah, but they don't, they're not emotional. They keep their cool. They're even keel. Their top guy is Cassius Winston. He emerged last year as a dynamic option and could be the Big Ten's top playmaker. He shot 49% from three-point range and handed out 6.9 assists. So he's definitely versatile offensively. He's their starting point guard. They have Nick Ward inside, who Tom Izzo has said he wants to get the ball more to. And I think that's a good idea because he's reliable on the inside. He's great on the boards. He defends well, but he needs to become a better passer. They have Josh Langford, a junior guard, who's a long-range threat, can finish inside the arc too, that pull-up mid-range jumper. So they have kind of this big three in Winston, Ward, and Langford. And they have some guys around them who can shoot threes, who can finish inside. So they're a very well-rounded team. A lot of under-the-radar freshmen coming in this year who I think will stay for the long run. And as you'll know, Michigan State is always tough out in the tournament. So they'll definitely be top 15 team all year.
Yeah.
Their biggest challenger is Michigan, who's I don't think is ranked in the top 15, which is surprising to me, but we'll just see what happens there. Auburn, I'm not going to talk a lot about them, but they'll be good. Zach Skelton wanted me to talk about K-State. So I guess I'll do that. K-State's behind Kansas. They're projected to finish second in the Big 12. As you know, they made that Elite Eight run last year. And eventually lost to, who was it? Was it Loyola Chicago? I believe it was.
Yeah, Loyola Chicago.
Lost to Loyola Chicago, but they did make the Elite Eight. But they did beat Kentucky in that run, so definitely something to be happy about.
They didn't lose anybody. That's a plus.
Oh, they didn't. Let's see. For K-State, Dean Wade is back. He's the main guy. And so is Barry Brown Jr. Both explored going to the NBA, but they eventually decided to return because this team has the highest expectations of the Bruce Weber era. Next, the entire roster returns. They're one of the only teams in the country where they can say their entire roster is coming back. Recruits Sean Neal Williams and Austin Trice, who I don't know a lot about. Neal Williams is a 6'3" freshman guard from St. Louis who has incredible defensive ability, supposedly. And then Austin Trice is a junior college transfer who's great on the glass, and he'll be certainly an important piece off the bench. My thing with K-State is the rebounding concerns me. They were last in the Big 12 last year in rebounding, so I think Trice and the guys inside that they bring back will definitely need to step up there, but they're good defensively, they're experienced, and if Dean Wade and Barry Brown Jr. can continue the production that they had last year, along with Xavier Sneed, who looks to take a next step after he averaged 11.5 as a small forward, they'll definitely be a threat in the Big 12 and a threat come tournament time. For
sure. I'd see them as like maybe a 4 to 7 seed range.
But my key for K-State is last year they were guard heavy. I think they need someone inside in order to beat some of the more elite teams in the country.
Yeah, like a post
because if you look at it, great teams in college basketball always have a great big man. So you gotta they gotta have someone.
Somebody's gotta step up. Yeah.
We'll see. Who's next? West Virginia. They're projected to finish third in the Big 12. You have Coach Bob Huggins, who's always he's one of the staples of college basketball. They did climb as high as number 2 in the AP Press poll last year. That was their highest ranking since 1960. But they eventually wasted that success. But they did reach the Sweet 16. They have reached the Sweet 16 3 of the past 4 years, so they're definitely experienced. They did lose
Javon Carter
and Dexter Miles Jr., who were staples in that backcourt. But I think Bob Huggins, he's one of those guys who kind of picks his poison and figures it out as they go. That's why you see West Virginia jumping up and down the rankings all the time, because they try to find that team chemistry as they work through the season. And then eventually when it comes tournament time, they're always hard to beat. Of course, they're known for that full court press, which is always difficult for teams to beat out. So if you want to beat the Mountaineers, you'll have to beat that. But their top guy is Sagaba Kanate. He's a great big man. He's one of the nation's top defensive players. He blocked 116 shots last year. That's second most in West Virginia school history. Averaged 11 points and 8 rebounds. He's a strong forward whose game, I think, resembles Kenyon Martin when he played at playing at Cincinnati. But they're rugged in the front court. Essa Ahmad, I forgot about him. 10.2 points, 5 rebounds. And Lamont West, all good contributors in the backcourt. They have a great big man. They're good defensively. They're always good defensively. So we'll have to see with West Virginia. It's just how consistent can they be. Oregon, I don't have a lot to say about Oregon, but they actually might be the favorite to win the Pac-12, who's kind of weak this year. But if you think about it, don't have a lot to say about Oregon. I don't want to misspeak on them. And then Virginia Tech, very big sleeper, probably my biggest sleeper in the country. And I'll tell you why. They've been a solid top 6 ACC team for a long time now. And a top 6 team in any other conference might not be good enough, but in the ACC, that's great. 4 stars return, and the 6th man returned from the NCAA tournament team last year. I think Buzz Williams has finally imprinted his playing style, his philosophy on the program, and I think they got their most experienced, most talented team this year. Let's see. The last 2 seasons they've come close, only to end with first round losses. They've always been kind of the 8 or 9 seed, so they'll have to get past the first round. They have seniors Chris Clark and Ahmad Hill. Justin Robinson are the mainstays. And they have redshirt junior Kerry Blackshear Jr., who's a good guy inside. So they have 4 juniors and seniors in the starting lineup, so they're definitely experienced. They're decent defensively. I'm going to need to see more from them defensively, but they're decent. Definitely a sleeper. They're very hard to beat in Blacksburg. The key will be can they get some of those games against the more elite teams in the ACC like Carolina and Duke and Virginia. But they did beat Virginia's only ACC loss last year was to Virginia Tech at home. So they match up well against a lot of teams because they can shoot. They can spread the floor and shoot with the best of them. When they're on, they're going to be very tough to beat. The question is, for me, is just can they position themselves come tournament time? Can they be playing at their best? Because it seems to me in the past couple of years, they've kind of been worn down at the end of the season, and kind of that rolls over into the tournament, and they're not always ready to play their best basketball come tournament time, which you have to do. But definitely a lot of things to be excited for. And those are just 4 teams: Virginia Tech, Carolina, Virginia, and Duke. I didn't even mention Clemson or Florida State or even Syracuse. Mm-hmm. Or Florida State or NC State or Miami. So
yeah, or Louisville.
Yeah, so
Yeah, ACC is going to be pretty stacked this year.
I expect 9-10 teams from this conference to make the tournament. So that was a lot of things running through my head. I'm still trying to get back into the swing of things with college basketball, but we'll certainly talk about it more in the coming weeks because the season kicks off not next week, but the next week. So we'll certainly talk about it more when that time comes. But if y'all have any questions, y'all can just...
Yeah, y'all got to get to Michael about that because I'm definitely not the college basketball guru that he is.
But yeah, if that seemed a little scattered and not very like it didn't flow very well, it's because I'm still trying to gather all my thoughts. There's so much running through my head, but you guys get the point.
Yeah.
Emmy, do you want to say anything?
I know you said the Pac-12 was going to be weak this year, but what do you think of UCLA this year? They got Sharif O'Neal, and they have Jalen Hands returning.
You know what? I said I know I said that, but I haven't really done because there's not a lot of teams in the Pac-12 ranked in the top 25. So I actually have not done a lot of looking or research on the Pac-12. So let me take a look. Oregon is of course projected to finish first. UCLA is projected to finish second in the Pac-12. Let's see. So the Bruins last spring had 3 freshmen declare for the NBA draft, including so they kind of got unlucky there, but they have a do-it-all guard in Aaron Holiday. They returned an experienced, skilled big man.
No, Aaron Holiday went to the draft.
He did?
Yeah. He got drafted by the Pacers.
Oh, shit. Well, then they don't have him. Well, they have Sharif O'Neal.
Mm-hmm. Shaq's son.
Certainly would be fun to watch.
Yeah, hopefully.
I
think you were thinking of Jalen Hands.
I'll just read y'all guys what I got here on UCLA. Okay, Aaron Holiday's departure was expected after he put together an almost all-league MVP-type effort by averaging 20.3 points and 6 assists per game, while anchoring the defense and logging 37 minutes per game, which is crazy in college. His loss means Jalen Hands' ability to grow into a standout point guard role will be central to UCLA's success this year. Hands joined Chris Wilkes and forward Cody Riley in returning from the NBA draft pool. Is Hands, who joined Wilkes and Howard Cody Riley in returning from the NBA draft pool, is undeniably quick and able to score in bunches. But he was inconsistent as a freshman, one reason why Alford relied so heavily on Holiday at the point. Now, Coach Alford says Hands is more than capable of becoming one of the country's most dynamic players. Unlike most top players who leave school almost regardless of their realistic draft stock, Wilkes said at the NBA draft combine that he'd return if he wasn't assured of being a first-round pick, and he did just that. But he might become a first-round pick after this season, already being a consistent producer who was the Bruins' second leading scorer last year, behind Aaron Holiday. UCLA also has a veteran presence on the wing with Prince Ali. I like that name. Who started 22 games last season. 3 4-star freshmen arrived to back up on the perimeter. Tiger Campbell, David Singleton, and Jules Bernard, who I know nothing about. The Bruins also added power forward Sharif O'Neal, the son of Shaquille O'Neal, In August, after academic issues delayed his arrival, O'Neal committed to UCLA in February after decommitting from Arizona because of off-court concerns. Regardless, the Bruins are in good shape up front with the return of Riley and forward Jalen Hill, both of whom were suspended after being involved in UCLA's China shoplifting incident last season. With the likes of
LeAngelo Ball.
What's his name?
LeAngelo Ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it on UCLA. I just wanted to point them out.
Yeah, they'll be I don't know about, well, do they get votes for the top 25? Let's see. I don't see them in the voting, which is kind of surprising because they're projected to finish. Oh, wait, no, they're ranked 21. I didn't see them there. Wow, they're ranked 21. So they'll be a top 25 team.
Okay.
They could certainly win the Pac-12. I mean,
if they decide to play defense, they can. They have enough talent to do it.
Yeah, what's interesting is not usually you have Arizona in the mix, but this year I don't think they're going to be super good.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but
I guess they just didn't get the recruiting class they wanted. I don't know. They had Sharif O'Neal, but they
lost him because of that all that stuff that came out about whatever it was.
The cheating or whatever. The paying.
Yeah.
Yeah, paying recruits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did they ever get a big punishment for that? I don't remember. I have to look that up and get back to you all on that, but I think that's it.
You want to transition to NBA real fast?
Yeah, we can do that. You can. I did a lot of talking there, so you can start us off with the NBA.
Well, I was thinking we could do some MVP predictions.
Okay.
So right now, the undefeated teams are the Pelicans, the Nuggets, the Pistons, the Raptors, and I think that's it. I think those are the only four. But I'd say on those teams, I'd say Anthony Davis has to be considered. That's one. And then obviously Kawhi Leonard.
Okay.
And then another thing I wanted to point out is I think Aaron Gordon is my new pick for most improved player this year.
Okay.
I think he's kind of my sleeper now because I'm not going to lie. With him having a jump shot, it just looks like he's ready to become a star.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. But back to the MVP. The Lakers are 1-3, so right now that kind of hurts LeBron's chances if they're not winning. And then I feel like Curry and Durant cancel each other out. So I think what I wanted to get to, my point is it all comes down to right now it's Leonard and Davis at the top for me.
I would agree. I wouldn't be afraid to put Giannis up there, but
oh, that's another undefeated team. That's right.
Because they're doing well.
Yeah, for sure. That team, with Budenholzer as the coach, the way that they struggled with 3-point shooting the last couple of years, they finally have 3-point shooting now. They got Dante DiVincenzo in the draft. That was a really good pickup, in my opinion. That was a really underrated pickup. So now they have 3-point shooting finally, and that's going to really help them.
I want to jump off the MVP topic for just a minute and read you guys what was reported earlier by Adrian Wojnarowski. After a 1-3 start to the 2018-19 season, the Houston Rockets are renewing their attempt to acquire Jimmy Butler in a trade. The latest proposal reportedly includes 4 future first-round draft picks. The haul would be the maximum allowable number of first-round draft picks in a trade based on NBA rules, which prevent picks to be traded in consecutive years. The potential deal would provide the Timberwolves with first-round picks in alternating seasons for 7 years, which is the farthest out a draft pick could possibly be dealt. Butler is currently averaging 24.8 points, 5.3 rebounds, and an NBA best 3.8 steals per game in 4 appearances with the Minnesota Timberwolves this season. The 4-time All-Star has been on the block since putting in a trade request with his team in September. While the Miami Heat appeared to be a likely landing spot, a deal fell through at the last minute. Still, the Rockets were considered to be aggressive in seeking a deal at that time.
Wow.
Stefano Fusaro of ESPN reported in early October that the Timberwolves wanted both Eric Gordon and P.J. Tucker in a deal for Butler, but the Rockets wouldn't give up Tucker. It appears Houston would prefer to give up future assets rather than lose someone who can help the team contend this season. Despite the Rockets' slow start, the squad has high expectations this season after coming 1 game away from the NBA Finals a year ago. Reigning MVP James Harden will miss at least 2 games with a hamstring strain, but pairing him, Butler, and Chris Paul gives the team several elite offensive weapons along with quite a few secondary options. Considering Butler's resume as a defensive player as well, he could potentially be the missing piece that helps the Rockets bring home a championship. That's the article. That came out a couple hours ago. The report by Adrian Wojnarowski is they are offering 4 future first-round picks to the Timberwolves for Jimmy Butler. So, we'll see if that deal falls through.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what was reported. If I were the Timberwolves, personally, in my opinion, I'd take that trade in a heartbeat.
You have to.
You have to.
7 years in the future, you don't know what's going to – they could be a lottery team by then.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden and Chris Paul are going to be – Chris Paul is definitely going to be retired by then. I don't know what James Harden will be, but who knows what could happen in 7 years. You saw what happened with the Brooklyn Nets in that trade, and it seems like that kind of thing where they're just going in for a championship, and on top of all that, they can't even re-sign Jimmy Butler. They don't have cap space.
Certainly. So it'd be
It would be a 1-year rental.
to give up 4 first-round draft picks for a guy that you might not even have 2 years down the road. So
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense to me. But if Minnesota doesn't, if this is for real, if Minnesota doesn't take it, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Someone in that front office of Minnesota is really screwing up if they don't jump on this.
For sure, man. I don't know. Wow.
Because you're not going to get
more than that.
4 first-round draft picks. Don't even try to tell me they're going to get an offer better than that. You're not.
That's not going to happen.
So
Jimmy Butler's stock shouldn't even be that high, considering all the locker room
I agree.
problems he's caused everywhere he's gone. And apparently, when he was getting traded from the Bulls, the Celtics didn't want him. Like, they could have traded for him, but they didn't want him because of the locker room concerns. And clearly, they probably made the right decision.
Another update for y'all. Just real quick. The Houston Texans have defeated the Miami Dolphins 42-23 in the Thursday night game. Deshaun Watson, 16 out of 20 for 239 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Wow. That's a beatdown.
Yep. And Houston has now won 5 straight. Miami has lost 4 or 5. So there you go.
All right. Do you want to end it there, man?
I know you're talking about the MVP. So you have, so you have Giannis, you have Anthony Davis, you got Kawhi. Those would probably be the top 3 as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's more. But maybe just
be honest. I think out of those 3, I think Davis is probably the one that I'd see maintaining his position, considering his reputation and the numbers he puts up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just in general, this team is really it's really underrated, to be honest. Mirotic has been playing really well alongside Davis, and Julius Randle off the bench may win 6th Man of the Year.
Maybe.
Seems like a perfect fit.
You because it's definitely a story. What do you think about Oklahoma City? They're 0-4 now, and they blew a 17-point lead to Boston and lost tonight at home. What do you think of that situation?
I think they need to fire Billy Donovan.
Yeah, I think you actually, if I'm not mistaken, have been saying that, right?
Yeah, I've been saying that since last year.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing against Billy Donovan, but I just think he's not the right man for the job, considering if we're just talking about Russell Westbrook alone here. He needs a coach that will be able to talk to him when he makes mistakes. Mm-hmm. And Billy Donovan just hasn't shown the ability to do that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like Billy Donovan has any type of authority over Russell Westbrook, over anything he does.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Westbrook just basically does what he wants.
Okay.
And point number 2 would probably be ball movement. Mm-hmm. That was a point of emphasis when they hired him. They were one of the worst in the league when they hired him. They're still one of the worst in the league. They haven't shown any improvement. In fact, they've probably gotten worse.
This is very interesting because I believe 2 episodes ago when we did our Western Conference predictions, we had OKC as the 2 seed in the West.
Yeah. That's going great for us right now. Wow.
Concerning turning it around, maybe.
Yeah. I think OKC will turn it around, but losing 4 in a row to start the season, that you can't do that in the West and expect to get a top seed.
No.
It's just not possible.
Any other surprises you think through the first week? Like any teams you thought wouldn't be as good as they are, or teams you thought would be a lot better than they look, or players you think look a lot better? Or
I'd say the Jazz look really good right now.
Mm-hmm.
They could be a sleeper team. They obviously went toe to toe with the Warriors the other night, and then Nuggets actually beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting to me. And then we had the Blazers missing the playoffs. They've started the season pretty well. It's still early, but they look pretty good right now. Nick Stauskas is turning out to be a really good pickup. They needed shooting, and he's basically just a shooter. That's what he does. He's a professional shooter.
Mm-hmm. I only got one more thing I want to mention, and then I'm done. I'm kind of worn out from talking all that college basketball, but as y'all know, the World Series is actually on. Well, not tonight, but it's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just not getting the amount of attention, I guess, because of all the other stuff going on right now. But the Red Sox are up 2-0 on the Dodgers in Game 3's tomorrow in LA. So
home field advantage is a really interesting thing to me in the World Series because you got basically two teams that don't see each other an entire season, and then
it is.
Then you go to this ballpark, Fenway Park, that's so unique from every other ballpark in baseball. You got to play a completely different type of game, and that's kind of been tough for the Dodgers to adjust. And also, in terms of style of play as well, the Dodgers take a more analytical approach to building their roster. And the Red Sox basically go, here's our best 9 guys. Try to beat us.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people talked about, how the bullpen of Boston struggled at times in the series against New York and the series against Houston. And the 2 games they lost, the bullpen struggled. But now David Price has got his crap together. He's winning games for them in that number 2 in the rotation, and their bullpen is shutting everyone down now. You had Kimbrel, Kelly, and Porcello in that bullpen, and they're all pitching lights out right now. So I think the series will ultimately end probably 4-1. I think the series goes 6 at most, and Boston wins.
Mm-hmm.
Just their 9 guys are better than any other team right now.
Yeah, they have the best lineup in baseball by far, in my opinion.
It's pretty amazing what they've done with a rookie manager.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they're going to get their 4th World Series in the past, 10, 12 years? So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, really impressive. Especially since, they've had, 90 lost seasons in between.
Yeah. So
that's pretty interesting. I feel like in baseball, it's so hard to stay consistent.
Yeah.
You had the Cubs look like they were going to have a dynasty. Mm-hmm. They looked really good. And then next year, they get knocked out in the NLCS. This year, they don't even make the playoffs. So that's just how it goes sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, baseball, there's just there's definitely more turnover than you think there is.
Mm-hmm.
This is a sport with no salary cap, so player movement is unbelievable in the MLB. This year, we might talk about this in the future, but I believe Bryce Harper's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Manny Machado is also a free agent. So
yeah,
you got some big bats out there, and there's a ton of pitchers for teams that need to improve their pitching, like the Yankees and the Yankees. The Astros don't really need pitching. I think Boston could still add a couple guys to their bullpen, but
or even a team like Milwaukee, they're probably one piece away.
I think a team like Milwaukee could maybe use one of those bigger bats, but they do have Christian Yelich, so I think they could maybe strengthen their
lineup. Yeah,
I think their bullpen is one of the strongest in baseball.
Yeah, for sure. I was just saying
they could improve their starting rotation too.
Mm-hmm. Just a starter that can. It's always important to have a couple good aces that can get you a lead, especially in the playoffs when there's so much, so many swings in the course of a game.
But I mean, in the end, in today's MLB, it's ultimately pitching wins the World Series. Pitching wins in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, for a lot of these teams, they're going to need to go out and get pitching. For the Yankees, it's starting pitching. For the Astros, I still think they could probably strengthen their bullpen, and I think the Red Sox could strengthen their bullpen. But it's pretty amazing to see the American League and all three of those teams won 100 games. That was definitely crazy.
Two in the same division.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that the Yankees were a wild card team winning 100 games with that lineup.
People were talking they might be, considered as best wild card team ever, but can be
But they ended up getting smacked by the Red Sox, so I think that kind of
ultimately that's what it goes back to, saying pitching wins these days. And the Yankees broke the record for home runs in a season, but come playoff time, the guys that they normally rely on, Sabathia, Severino, and Tanaka, couldn't get it done in the playoffs, so they're going to need to strengthen their starting rotation.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think baseball fans, I'm not a humongous one, but I follow it some more than I have in the past. So I think baseball could be, depending on where the free agents end up.
Baseball's in a really good place right now.
I think it's in a good spot, and I think if they can speed up the pace of play, which is the biggest criticism of baseball, if they can speed up the pace of play, I think a lot more people will start to
watch again.
To watch it, but pace of play is something that really needs to be focused on if you're the MLB. But that's all I have to say.
All right, I think that'll be it for our podcast today. Once again, like, subscribe, leave a comment, your thoughts for the NBA MVP, your NFL predictions, who you think will win the World Series, all that.
Your take on college basketball
as well, yeah. That'll do it. We're gonna be back next week, sometime, maybe Wednesday. It would be my guess. So. See y'all then.
Amy's going to be tweeting out the times for each podcast in advance going forward. So I suggest y'all follow him on Twitter.
That's going to be at Emmy Nixon. IMYNIXON, no spaces.
So y'all can get, so y'all know when the next one is.
Yeah.
And Noah Dennis has asked us if he can
be a guest on our podcast. That will be something we can do in the future. So
for sure.
expect him. And for now, that'll do it. We'll see y'all next time. Catch y'all on the next one.